In this course, Methods of Literary Study, I have learned a lot about how to combine literary analysis and multimodal composition. As a class, we have focused on making projects that result in having different materials, processes, and outcomes. Throughout our different assignments, creativity has been a central part of these projects. A researcher at Oxford University explains that creativity is a complex and compelling psychological phenomenon. To understand creativity is to understand the varied individual, social, cultural, and historical factors that impinge on it. While the poetry essay focuses on a more traditional style of learning, involving researching a concept and writing about these ideas, the e-poem takes a more modern approach, using technology to portray concepts. However, both of these assignments have unique materials, processes, and outcomes where I am able to use my creativity to express new ideas and help understand literary concepts. To begin, I will start with our more traditional literary assignment, an essay analyzing and interpreting a poem of our choice. One researcher discusses traditional learning and explains that one problem is that individuals and organizations are more likely to invest in traditional educational skills like literacy than creative skills. Other researchers outline the reasons for this, explaining the basic idea is that creativity is a riskier investment with less certain payoffs than literacy and other skills tied to traditional education. Although an essay assignment is common in English courses, we included a creative approach as well. Another part of the assignment was to create a related lens that helps discuss the poem from a new angle, for example, using a social, political, historical, or psychological concept as well. Therefore, not only do we analyze the poem's details, meaning, poetic devices, and structure, but we argue a related idea can help give a key sense of understanding to the poem as well. For this assignment, I analyzed two poems about mental illness called I'm Just Fine and Request by poet and psychologist Tom Greening. Greening wants to decrease the separation of the humanities and sciences because they both explain parts of the human mind and offer insight to the human condition. Greening uses his poetry to reach more audiences and increase public awareness of mental illness. In order to understand the meaning and purpose of these poems, one must examine the intentions Greening has not only as a poet, but also as a psychologist. By looking through a psychological lens to understand these poems, it adds a creative approach to a traditional essay. It allows for a new understanding of a literary work, and also offers the opportunity to combine English with another subject or topic. I liked that this assignment allowed one to be creative and connect one concept like poetry with a seemingly unrelated concept like psychology. Another assignment in the class was to create a piece of electronic art, an e-poem. Using the program Camtasia, we translated a poem to the screen using animations, opacity, movement, sound, videos, and more. This project was left up to our creative interpretation because we could portray the poem however we felt best displayed its impact and meaning. One quote in an article by two researchers helps explain the process I used to create this video assignment. If strides are to be made in the sciences, humanities, and arts, we must arrive at a far more detailed understanding of the creative process, its antecedents, and its inhibitors. Specifically, there were many creative approaches I took to begin the process of making this assignment. The first thing I did to get ideas for images to use to represent this poem was to annotate it as a Word document. In order to brainstorm ideas, I highlighted key words I wanted to emphasize in my video. I also used color to break it up into different sections and dividing lines to portray different images. Then I wrote in different concepts I had for how to portray the poem's meaning, both visually and technically on Camtasia. To me, this step logically precedes the process of creating the video. Like the quote explains, understanding this creative process first is very important to understanding the piece of art as a whole. This quote also explains that inhibitors need to be examined. There were many challenges I came across when making this video. My biggest inhibitor to the creative process or the watermarks that appeared on many of the images I wanted to use. In my first draft of the e-poem, I included images with watermarks in the background. However, after receiving feedback that this was distracting, I knew I needed to find other images to use. After considering the sources of images, I realized why these watermarks may exist. Artists are choosing to protect their creative work because with the web, it is all too easy to copy someone else's work and claim it as your own. I found it very difficult to find the primary source of many images I used in my e-poem. With the replication of images on the internet, creative work is not well protected without providing a watermark. Overall, considering the beginning brainstorming process of this project and better analyzing the materials I used, helped me to understand this creative work as a whole and create a more successful e-poem video. Throughout these assignments, my knowledge of creativity has expanded. Breaking away from traditional education, I have learned how the effects of adding a creative interpretation to a piece of literary work can increase its meaning and connection to multiple ideas and concepts. I learned the sciences and humanities are more connected than I would have ever considered. Additionally, I learned how the process of creating art electronically can help identify art's overall meaning as well. Not only do antecedents during the process of portraying art need to be examined, but challenges that may inhibit work need to be considered as well to fully understand a creative piece of art.